What's up, riders? Kevin Wilson with the BMXPERTS podcast, and as previously promised, I have a special guest today. We had some technical difficulties yesterday, to say the least. Erik Kocen's on. Erik, I appreciate you taking the time once again to join me on the podcast, bro.
Yeah, no problem, man. Sorry things didn't work out yesterday.
Oh my gosh, dude. So just a little bit of background story. I started racing in 1983. I showed up at Azusa by way of Monrovia one Sunday afternoon, and by that time, Erik was. I would inform that you were pretty much left a door for me on your way out of the track, right?
Yeah, I kind of was hanging it up. I think I probably raced my last race in the end of '83.
Okay.
Raced a handful of times in 84, and then didn't race another race until probably '89. I raced a few, just a national, Southern California national type of thing, and would go to the local tracks and Coal Canyon type of stuff, and that was it.
So I only raced a couple tracks, bro. What was your favorite track? I mean,
oh man, there was so many at the time. I mean, literally, when I started, there was a lot of like small tracks in parks and stuff like that. I started in Norwalk at Hollyfield Park, and that was a track that was just it's now a parking lot, but at the time it was just in the park. There was no fence around it. All the kids went and rode in it and stuff, and that's kind of what got me going in the first place. But one of my favorite tracks I would say of all time is probably is Corona, because it was just such a cool track to race, and so fast and stuff. So
was it as sketchy as people say it was?
I don't know if I'd say sketchy so much, but it was
you had to have some skills.
A lot of mayhem at that track. So I always tell the story of the first time I went there. In the first turn, it was a real tight one. That's when you were coming out of that, down that hill and everything. And they had paramedics right there. And you would see people like crash and wad up and everything. And then you'd see these kids laying on the track, like just kind of peeking, like to see if the paramedics were coming. And then if they realized the paramedics weren't coming, they'd get up and, go. But it was the funniest thing. So, but that track was a fun track to ride. Just I don't know, it was great.
I remember the first straight at the MBL Azusa track. I remember it being a very, very fast first straight, man.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was always one of my just that first roller, and then it dips down into the first turn. And I remember just flying through that thing.
Yeah. That track was always interesting at practice time, because you had that cross in the track, and you never knew what's like if somebody like just jumped on and didn't take the gate. It was fun.
You kind of shared I think that you kind of shared with me how you started racing. I mean, did you want to give a quick because I thought it was kind of a cool story how you started. Did you want to give a quick recap of what happened?
Yeah, well, again, started at Hollyfield Park, and that was where that was the local park where you played Little League baseball. My brother was into Little League. I did Little League, but it was my thing was I'd get home from school or whatever, and I was on my bike, always on my bike, and I'd be over there. We rode everywhere and stuff, but I remember always Saturday morning we had games, and the BMX track was going on Saturday morning. So it was one of those things that you're out there on the field, and it's like you're hearing the announcer, and that's where I wanted to be. So
you kept looking over the track going, man, Mom, Dad, I want to be over there.
That was the thing, is like, I want to be over there. I don't want to be here. And so my mom, I talked my mom into letting me, go or taking me. And so she took me, signed me up and everything. And that's pretty much from there on. I don't even know if I played Little League again after that. So, and then my dad got involved, which my dad was involved more with my brother with Little League. But I mean, that's once he got involved, we started going to different tracks and stuff, and you meet people at the races. I mean, how it was. I think it's probably still that way today. And they start telling you about stuff. And I mean, I started on it's kind of like a Schwinn Stingray, but it was a Sears bike. And that's what I started on. And then from meeting people at the races, it's like, I wanted to get one of the cool bikes, but, didn't have the money. So I started saving the money, and then people start telling you, hey, go to this place and this place. And I think that, once that started, I think the next track that we went to and we became locals there was WSI, which was Western Sports Rama. And that was the place to go at the time, especially like in kind of northern southern Orange County area. So but there was all kinds of fast guys at that place. So
was that before Orange, or way before Orange?
oh yeah, that was way before Orange. Yeah, we're talking, so I started in 76, and we started going there probably towards the beginning. Actually, yeah, maybe the end of 76, the beginning of 77 is when we started doing that. So,
but you were there, man. I'm so jealous, man. You were there at the pinnacle, bro. Like right when it was just like hot as hell.
Yeah, I always say I'm so blessed to have like grown up in the days of BMX that I grew up in, because it was just I just feel it was the best time to be in the sport. It was growing, and it was more like, to me, I feel it was more family orientated.
Yeah.
Going to Dirty Fest, a month back now, that felt like I was going back to an old like NBA national at Corona or something.
Yeah.
It just had such a cool feel to it, and I think that's what BMX is kind of lacking now, is that family feel. I know, like when we raced, you had nationals on the weekends. Well, you had your motos Saturday, and then if you made it out of your motos or whatever, you came back Sunday. So a lot of people, we all we would camp at the track or whatever, and so you had that family feel at night. There was all these people camping at the track, and it was a great time.
Dude, how does it feel to have your dad kind of like a pseudo celebrity in the BMX arena? That must be kind of weird, man. I mean,
you know what? I dig it. Mike Miranda and Eric Carter, they both talked about my dad, and just watching that podcast and hearing my dad's name come up, it was like really cool to hear. I know when Lee Medlin did his acceptance speech into the Hall of Fame, he mentioned my dad, and it was like, when I saw that, I was like, well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's so many parents that they made a great thing for us, and they gave their time. We didn't realize it back then, but I totally appreciate that. What was it? Was it last weekend? No, the weekend before, we went to the NBA reunion, and it's great seeing all that. But one of the things was Ernie Alexander. He ran NBA at the time, and I always remember, like, so many people, so many parents would like be pissed off at, oh, Ernie's a crook and stuff. But you know what? I see it in a whole different way now. It's like, I really appreciate what he did, and probably sacrificed, for us kids to have, this platform and just the sport. So
yeah.
Yeah, so that's really cool when you get to realize that and really appreciate it now.
So when you were in your heyday back in did you get picked up by a bike shop team pretty fast, or were you independent for a while?
You know what? When I went out to trying to think, even before, I went out to my first shop that I rode for was a bike shop called Raleigh Bike House in Garden Grove, and somebody told us to go there. That's where I bought my first real BMX bike, which was an R&R. And somehow we got hooked into that shop, and that was kind of a shop that maybe people don't know that name, but there was the guy that owned it was the guy named Demos, and he was the guy that did DRP. And there was like Denny Davidow, Denny's brother Dirk, all those guys. There was some hot guys on that team that were really fast. So that's where I started, and then from there I went to it's a shop called Anaheim Bicycle Center, and that was owned by Rich Long, which became part of him and Gary Turner started the GT thing, and so I rode for them, and then from there that's I got onto GT through the shop, and that's kind of where everything went. But yeah, I mean, those are the two teams that I rode for in the beginning. So
did you make expert fast, or did it take you a while?
I couldn't tell you if I did or not. I'm trying to think. Like, I think when you went to Western, God, I don't even remember there being like novice and beginner or anything like that. I think you signed up for your what was it? It was IBMX was the sanction. And I think once you signed up for that, they gave you your plate and you started racing, and you raced whoever you raced. I really don't remember there being a novice class. When I got into the NBA thing, we started going from Western, we started going out to Van Nuys, which that was the track for NBA. Lot of fast guys out there. That's when I remember novice and stuff. Like, because you used to have the green plate for novice, and then the white plate was for expert. So,
see, all this stuff, I was ABA only, so NBA, all these other places, all these things you're mentioning is like, I'll take your word for it, bro. Because
no. Well, I mean, when people see it, and people that were there, they'll know. But it's funny because, in NBA you had a green plate for novice and white for expert, and then I remember there was a local, more Orange County BMXL, which I think, I may be wrong with the story, but I think ABA bought them out or whatever. But they had, I think you had orange plates for novice, and then blue plates were for experts.
Learn something new every day, dude. What were the letters for? Were the letters like 16, like 234W? Would that be your last name, or
no? Well, in NBA they had the districts where, like, so Southern California was X, and then Northern California was N, San Diego was an S, and then they went through, I think, I want to say like Oklahoma was K, so they had it that way. And then I didn't see letters again until when I got into NBL, and I think they used the letters for your last name. Because I always remember when I first got into, trying to think, my number was O2K was my first NBL number. So
I don't even think I ever had an NBL number. I think I raced my ABA number for the NBL races. I don't remember.
Who knows? Yeah.
Because
I remember I had to get an NBL number or membership for the Upper Azusa track, because they were NBL. The lower was ABA. Right. So
let's talk Azusa ABA, bro, because this is what I know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I spent so much time out at that track. A lot of people, I think even you, thought that maybe I lived up in the San Gabriel Valley.
I totally thought you were from Monrovia, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we raced Monrovia, we raced Azusa. Trying to remember what else was out that way.
Pipeline.
What's that? Pipeline. Oh yeah, Pipeline. I raced. I think Pipeline was kind of racing more towards the end of me racing, but I did race out there quite a bit too. So, because I always wanted to go in the skate park, but
dude.
You know,
before and after races, we rode the Pipeline.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So,
but anyways,
Azusa ABA. What are your fondest memories about that, besides hanging out in the snack bar taking pictures?
I always remember the first race that I went out there. It was actually God, I want to say it was the 78 ABA Winter Nationals they actually had at that track, and it was raining. And we were supposed to go somewhere else, and we ended up at that track. And it was like, I mean, things are kind of fuzzy, but I remember we went for a national. It ended up being the Winter Nationals there, and it was probably one of the funnest races because that was, I would say, the first race that I raced in full on mud. There's a good picture, and it, God, I want to say it was in bicycle motocross action. And there's like, so that track used to have a drop down, like bowl turn.
You were there for the bull turn?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was like that for a long time until they filled it in. And part of the reason why they filled it in was because when it rained, that thing just, I mean, it was a pool, you know, but
the bull turn was in like 84, dude.
No, they took that out way before that. I'm going to say, God, they took that out probably 80-ish, I'm guessing. Because see, so I don't know if they ever put it back in.
They put it back in again.
Okay, so when I raced there, like I said, I did that race, and then we started. I don't remember why we started going out there, but I know that Rich Long ended up running that track. He ran that thing for years until the Ainsworths and Wilsons took it over.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what year that was. I would say that was probably 1984. I'm guessing is when they took that over.
Because they were in charge in 83. I got there in 83, and they were already running.
So it probably could have been the end of 83 then, because I didn't really race too much when they were when they ran it. So I probably raced there a handful of times after that. But yeah, that track was, I mean, dude, us kids we ran that track kind of like, you know, practice time was the best because we used to like play kind of like tag, you know, on bikes on the track. So we would be going all over the place on the track and stuff. And, you know, but there's so many crazy ass memories that went down at that track, you know. So God, it's just
I
don't even know where to begin to tell you some of the stuff, but you know, I know there's a story. God, what's the Joe Kidd on the Stingray? I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
But there's a story that Jesse James tells about being there when Harry Larry got into a fight of some sort, and it's like I remember, but it's like which time? Because this is shit that happened like all the time. It's just there was so many like crazy things, and it's like you think, oh, Harry Larry, but he was just a regular dude. I think that was part of the cool thing about when I started racing too, was most of the pros, or the guys that you would say were, you know, the pros. I guess they were pros then. They were so like, you know, you could, you know, go up and, you know, talk to them, and, you know, it was, you know, there was still people that you geeked out on. Like I remember at Western, the first time David Clinton came out there, he was riding for DG, and I was like, oh my God, it's David Clinton. Because I remember, I don't know if you've seen that picture of him on his Kawasaki bike, and he's got the work booth. Okay, I had that picture. I think I probably had it on my wall, you know, because that was like, oh, that was cool. I wanted that bike, you know, and he was, you know, but I remember when he came out there, and it was like, oh my God, David Clinton, you know, it's like, can I touch him? You know, like kind of, it was full on geeked him, you know? So
the first time that I geeked out was at the 83 Jag World Championships in Burbank.
Okay.
And we were sitting in the stands, and my brother nudges me. He goes, dude, look who's behind us. And I turned around, and when Stu was behind us, right?
Okay.
I wasn't going to approach him, man, because I was too fucking scared. I was like, no way, man. And he didn't look like he was having a good weekend. So I was like, you know what? We'll let Stu stay over there, man. Just have a good time. But that's the only time I really geeked out. I don't remember anybody in 16 X that
Yeah.
was really that famous that I raced at Azusa. Now I'm sure that they
Yeah.
went there, but I don't remember anybody of real stature that like Bubba didn't go there, or all above my contemporaries and the experts that were there.
Yeah.
You're a little older than me, so you probably
Yeah. Well, taking it back to Hollyfield Park, being that I grew up in that neighborhood, there was somebody that lived 2 streets over from me, which you probably know the name, Tinker Juarez. He lived 2 streets over from me, and he was a fast dude there, back then. I think he's always been a fast guy for the most part. And then the other thing that I never will forget this is you would always see the DG van cruising around the neighborhood. It's because Jeff Botima lived in one of the neighborhoods to the side of the park, because there was a park in an elementary school that I went to. So you would always see that, and it was like, oh my God, it's Jeff Botima, kind of thing. So
I love
and
the
then
I love the Jeff Botima story about him getting stabbed by the pimp, dude. That's hilarious, dude.
oh, that's not hilarious, man. He almost died on that
Oh,
one.
no,
But
I'm just saying, 40 years later. I mean,
yeah,
it's a great story. I mean,
no,
it's like,
yeah. He's such a great dude too. I mean, I know he probably doesn't remember this, but I remember because I rode with Botima Forks, and I was one of the ones that I gonna say this. I don't know if it's true, but I remember getting a pair of Botima Forks before they were even out. They weren't even painted, and I remember riding them on what we used to call our Thrasher bike, which was the bike that we rode around town. And if I'm not mistaken, I got them because they wanted me to ride them and try to bend them or whatever. And that's where I really fell in love with that fork, because nobody was doing a fork that was a straight fork, at the time. There was always like a rake in the head tube kind of thing. So, and then when he made the light pair, I remember he gave me a pair that they weren't painted or nothing. They just did they had a yellow tint paint to them, and I rode those things forever, So
I think that's funny that you had a Thrasher bike too. In my crew in South Pasadena, our race bikes were the PK Rippers, and our freestyle and our jumping bikes were quads.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of funny because I don't know where we got the idea that all the SC freestylers rode quads.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for some reason, no one raced a quad in our group, but yeah, we had our Thrasher bikes too.
Yeah, I always because I always remember this bike because it was the one that I put the first pair of Botima forks I had on, because I got this bike. It's probably one of my favorite frames I ever rode, and it was a GJS. And at the time, Scott Bryhoff was distributing them, so I got that through Scott, and that ended up becoming my Thrasher bike, and that had those Botima forks on it.
Okay.
And that was the coolest bike. Dude, that thing I could wheelie for days on that bike, So, but then from after that frame, I started racing the quad, and that's kind of what got me kind of on the SE thing, and that was that I would say is probably the frame that I'm gonna say it's just my favorite frame out of all time was my quads that I had. So, and I have a aluminum quad sitting in my garage that's built up and stuff, and I've thought about selling that thing, but it's like, nah, I'm gonna hang on to this one. I think
like a second gen, like an 85, or what are you talking about?
No, this is so in the late 90s.
Okay.
Before they so you have the 1999 2000, I think, was the last year that SE was really SE. But I think it was in 96 or 97, they redesigned the quad angle. Hey guys, they redesigned the quad angle and they made it an aluminum frame.
Right. Okay. I know. Yeah.
I'm almost positive that was the the whole thing with that. TK pushed for that one. Perry Kramer, he pushed for that one because he was working there at the time. So anyways, I had one at the time, and then I got rid of that thing, and I started doing more like skate park stuff. So I kind of changed bikes, frames, and then dude, I was at a skate park, and this guy I knew said, "Yeah, hey," he was asking for somebody, and I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, because I have this aluminum SE in my van that he wanted to see." And I go, "Oh shit, maybe it's a PK." So I go, let me check it out. And he opens up his van, and there's frame and fork, and it's this aluminum quad. And I'm like, "Oh my God." I go, "What do you want for it?" And he goes, "Well, I need a new tire for my bike." And I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" And he goes, no, I need a new tire." And I go, because I was working for Mike Franzi at the time. So I, worked at the bike shop on Saturdays, and we used to ride the skate park on Saturday mornings. And I go, I'm going to pay cost for this thing. And he goes, "I don't care. I just need a new tire." So I was like, "Okay, I'll throw in an extra tire on it." So I ended up with it, and then I built it up. So
Nice.
kind of like, yeah, I'll it's a little bit of my history. So I think the quad, I've always ridden it. So
what were you riding when you were jumping the kid at Azusa in that picture? Over
you
the
know what,
double?
that kid is Bullwinkle. I think it is.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it is. Anyways, it's either him or God. I can't remember now. Anyways, I was riding a Hustler at the time, because that was kind of like my last sponsor was Ralph's, because they didn't really officially have the Hustler team yet. So I rode for Ralph, and he had given me a frame. I pretty sure I had Botima forks on that, and that's probably the last thing I raced, officially raced, because then I got, because I had a brand new, probably like 83 quad when they changed it. I had a brand new bike sitting in my garage that I got from Rod Beckering, because me and Rod Beckering go way back. I always joke that he would have never been on SE if it wasn't for my dad. So, which I could tell you that story too. There's a lot of stories.
Can you share it real quick? Like a couple
Okay.
minutes?
So anyways, back in the day, my dad used to have this brown International pickup truck with a little shell on it and everything. And we went to go pick up this kid that my dad worked with his dad, and we were going to take him to the races. And there was another kid with him. And so we're getting ready to leave, and the kid's like, "Well, see you guys," kind of like, and my dad turns to him and goes, "What? Won't your bike fit in the truck?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Then get it in there. Let's go." And Rod looked at my dad like, "Huh? What?" And he goes, "Well, you want to go? Let's go." And so he goes, "Well, I got to go to my parents and see if my parents are okay with it." So he ran, a couple blocks over, and then he started going with us, and like we always, like he went with us for years,
Wow.
And he ended up getting sponsored by, SE through that, at a Corona race. That's kind of when they asked him to ride for him and stuff. So, I had stayed good friends with him. There's some dark times in there.
Right.
Anybody that knows Rod, but I mean, I was great friends with him until he passed away, quite a few years ago. So
Yeah, that's too bad.
yeah.
Do you watch the Dirty Knobs podcast?
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I'm definitely digging that. So
they did an episode about the coolest team kits, uniforms. Yes. And
yes,
they mentioned SC like number 30. Like they went on for 20 minutes about and I think James said in passing, "Oh, what about SC?" And they're like, yeah, whatever. Dude, SC had the best kits, bro. Hands down.
There's two companies that I will always say that I like the kits, and it's because of the colors. And that was SE, because nobody did that color. And then the other team was, originally it was Speedo, which you probably don't know of Speedo, but it ended up being Patterson, right?
Yeah.
And I just always like, it was a color combination that nobody did. And it was like that. I was drawn to that stuff, even though they're a Northern Cal group. But I would say probably one of my favorite racers back when I was kind of starting and the magazines came out was probably Brent Patterson, just because he had like, he was fast and he had good style, you know. And then it helped too that when I was a kid, I grew up with On Any Sunday, and there was Kenny Roberts, and they took over the Kenny Roberts frame, and I always wanted one of those frames because I was a geek, you know, Kenny Roberts geek, you know.
Yeah.
That guy
So
was when
Brian was at when Brian was at Dirty Fest, dude. I had never watched him. I never watched him ride before, right?
Yeah,
And he's a big dude. I'm big. I'm 6'2",
yeah,
260, right? He
yeah.
made me look like a shrimp.
No, they both were big guys.
He was throwing it down, dude, in the first turn.
Yeah.
He would come on the inside and just push everybody outside, dude. I was like, yeah, I was surprised. I was like, you can still throw it down.
They were both like super fast, you know, but Brent was, you know, being that Brent was the older and that, like, you know, I think he got more recognition. But I always remember this one picture of both of them in the magazine, and one of them has a broken leg within a cast, and they're walking together, and the other one's got a broken arm in the cast and stuff, and it's like that was cool.
And wasn't it popular back in the day for like other team riders to get a Patterson and put their team stickers on it?
Okay, so that was the thing too, was because the Patterson, now I wasn't racing at the time, but I still, you know, talked with Rod and stuff and everything. And I know a lot of people loved that frame. It had great geometry from what everybody told me. So yeah, a lot of the pros, they either restickered them so they could use them, or I heard a lot of things of, you know, the pro, you know, whoever would get the frame and they would bring it to, you know, the manufacturer, you know, their manufacturer, and say, hey, I want a bike just like this with these with this geometry, you know, and they would build it for that person.
Yeah.
But I knew a lot of people did ride, you know, from what I understand. Hey guys, did ride Pattersons, you know. So and
a lot of people don't realize that back in the day, it was not uncommon for guys to ride bikes or frames that with different stickers on them.
You know, I think it became more common like when I was getting out, but I don't think that really happened a lot. Not, I would say definitely not in late 70s, but definitely I don't think so either, even in the early 80s either. So I think that practice started happening after, you know, I got done racing.
Yeah, because it was I think Jason Donnell told me a story about when he was riding for Redline, and he hated the frame so much that he wrote a free agent limo with Redline stickers on it.
Yep. And that was another frame that I remember hearing people were using was the limo frame, because that was a very like kind of like I think they just kind of pushed things that frame was a little longer, and that's what people. I mean, if you look at pictures of Stewart on his bikes, I mean, he's cramped in that thing. I don't know how he rode those bikes and did as well as he did.
Yeah,
it's almost like if he would have had the bike that fit him, how much, you know, faster would these guys have been, you know? It's crazy to watch, just to look at that, you know, and see they're just cramped in them things.
Yeah. We're running a little bit low on time here. Do you remember your last race? What you got?
I couldn't tell you what my last race was, you know. I would say the last time I ever raced was I'm gonna say it had to be at Upper Azusa, at the NBL track. That was probably what I'm gonna say, because I had turned pro the beginning of '83, and it was just one of those things. I'm going pro, you know, and I did it, and because I remember racing the Winter Nationals in Chandler, and I was pro, So I would go out to Azusa and just race pro class and try to make some money, you know,
Yeah.
because at the time there was quite a few pros that would show up for practice kind of thing. And we'd throw together a pro class and, you know, throw in some money and, you know, somebody take the pot kind of thing. So.
Oh my God. Hold it. Okay.
I just thought of a good story too is, you know who Pete Lonkarovich is, obviously.
Who?
Pete Lonkarovich?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a story back in Western days that and he may remember this, but I remember we tied like in the main, and and back then if you tied, you had the grudge race kind of like thing. So it was just us on the track going for it, and I think I beat him. I'm not sure. So he was
Nice.
like always my, and it was funny because I don't want to say I hated people, but there were certain people that you just I loved racing them because, you know, it was competition. I always loved a good race, you know, kind of thing. I didn't want to just win races, you know, without that competition. I loved that part of it. But yeah, it was one of those guys that when you lined up with him, man, it's like I'm beating Pete, you know, or you know, different people like that, you know.
I hear you, man.
That again, that's why I think because I'd like to say that my class was that was the toughest class, but I think every class was, because I mean, like my class, we had Pete, we had um, Richie Anderson was in our my class. We had like people like Tom Christopher